Few would believe that just over half a century ago, Singapore was a tiny island with a sparse population, living mainly on fishing and small trade. No resources, no oil, no arable land. Shantytowns crammed together, muddy roads, high unemployment, widespread social ills. People used to call it a poor fishing village on the fringe of Southeast Asia. In 1965, when it split from Malaysia, many international experts predicted Singapore would collapse as it had almost no conditions to survive independently. Yet, a miracle happened. Although Singapore is only a small island nation, it holds one of the most strategic positions on the planet, the Strait of Malacca. This is the maritime artery linking the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, where more than 1/3 of global commercial goods must pass, including oil from the Middle East, industrial products from East Asia, and raw materials from Africa. This gateway to the world position naturally turned Singapore into a stopping point for international shipping. Right after gaining independence, the Singaporean government recognized this advantage and quickly turned the seaport into the heart of the economy. They not only maintained the existing port infrastructure from the British colonial era, but also invested heavily in expanding berths, adopting advanced containerization technology, and building professional logistics services. As a result, Singapore not only played the role of a transshipment hub, but also became a regional center for redistribution, maritime finance, and insurance. One could say geography was a rare natural gift that Singapore possessed, but the key lay in how they fully exploited it, turning that advantage into a solid foundation for industrialization and global integration. In the 1960s and 1970s, as the Vietnam War escalated, Singapore maximized the economic opportunities arising from the conflict. With a safe location, strong port infrastructure, and a cooperative stance toward the West, Singapore quickly became a logistics center serving the U.S. military and its allies. Warships and cargo vessels frequently called at Singapore to refuel, undergo repairs, and stock up on essentials. Tens of thousands of American soldiers were also sent to Singapore for rest and recreation, generating huge consumer demand for services, entertainment, hospitality, and retail. The inflow of foreign currency helped Singapore tackle unemployment while giving the government additional budget room to invest in infrastructure and long-term development projects. Moreover, acting as a stable rear base for the United States helped Singapore build international credibility and open deep economic and political ties with the West. This became one of the crucial springboards for the island nation to attract foreign direct investment after the war, laying the groundwork for the remarkable growth of the following decades. When Singapore separated from Malaysia in 1965, the island had almost nothing in hand, no resources, a multi-ethnic society fraught with tensions, and an economy dependent on the outside world. In that context, Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew became the decisive figure, with the leadership style often described as tough but effective. He built a government that was clean and disciplined, waging war on corruption from within the state apparatus. Civil servants had to be honest, efficient, and accountable for outcomes. Lee also set a long-term vision. Singapore could not live off agriculture or resource extraction. It had to rely on trade, services, and human intellect. Accordingly, he aimed to create a transparent legal environment safe for business while focusing on education to turn a small population into high-quality human capital. With firm leadership and the ability to inspire, Lee Kuan Yew helped Singaporean society pull together to overcome hardship. This integrity and discipline built trust among the people and, especially, among international investors. Unlike many countries that chose protectionism or resource dependence, Singapore opted from the start for a comprehensive open-door strategy. The government established the Economic Development Board to attract and support foreign businesses. Corporate taxes were kept competitive, administrative procedures streamlined, and the legal system made transparent. Industrial parks were pre-planned with reliable electricity, water, transport, and port access, enabling investors to bring in the machines and start producing. Thanks to these policies, a host of multinational corporations chose Singapore as their regional hub, from oil majors like Shell and ExxonMobil to later technology and finance companies. FDI brought not only capital, but also technology, managerial know-how, and access to markets. The government skillfully tied FDI to domestic development by training local talent to serve these corporations, thereby raising skills and incomes for the population. This became a vital engine that allowed Singapore to leapfrog in its industrialization. Singapore realized that its greatest resource was not underground, but in the minds of its people. Therefore, since the 1960s, the government has prioritized heavy investment in education. Schools were standardized, discipline was strict, and foreign languages and mathematics were emphasized. English was adopted as the official language, not only to remove barriers among ethnic communities, but also to help the younger generation integrate rapidly into a globalizing world. At higher levels, Singapore built high-quality universities and research institutes closely aligned with the needs of business and the economy. Scholarship programs and international partnerships enabled students to access cutting-edge knowledge and return to contribute to the nation. Within just a few decades, Singapore transformed from a low-wage workforce into a pool of highly trained specialists, engineers, and managers. This human capital has been a key factor helping Singapore attract FDI, develop high-tech industries and financial services, and rise into the ranks of developed nations. One of Singapore's defining features is its discipline and strict rule of law culture. The government set very stringent regulations: littering, smoking in public, vandalism, even chewing gum could incur heavy fines. This was once seen as draconian, but in practice, it built a clean, orderly, and safe society. The image of spotless streets and a secure living environment is evidence of how effective these policies are. More importantly, the rule of law is applied forcefully in national governance and business. Corruption is punished severely, with no sacred cows, creating a government that is trustworthy in the eyes of citizens and the international community. Investors feel secure because contracts are protected, laws are clear, and arbitrariness is absent. People believe in social fairness because everyone who breaks the law is dealt with equally. This culture of discipline and legality not only improves quality of life, but also becomes a national brand, directly supporting investment attraction and sustaining long-term growth. At first, Singapore's economy depended heavily on the port and logistics services. However, its leaders understood that relying on a single sector would leave the country vulnerable to global shocks. Therefore, they pursued broad diversification. In the 1970s and 1980s, Singapore developed manufacturing and petrochemicals, turning itself into a leading hub for refining and chemical production. At the same time, it built a modern financial and banking system, becoming the financial capital of Southeast Asia. Entering the 21st century, the nation continued to pivot toward higher value sectors: information technology, artificial intelligence, healthcare, international education, and premium tourism. The government has consistently encouraged innovation, supported tech startups, and developed high-tech zones such as One North. As a result, Singapore has maintained stable growth without depending on any single revenue source. This diversification helps the small nation stand firm through global crises and retain its position as a regional center of economics and technology. From a poor fishing village where shantytowns covered half the city and unemployment and instability were chronic, Singapore has turned itself into one of the wealthiest and most powerful nations. That success stems from a strategic geographic position, the ability to seize international opportunities, a leadership vision rooted in integrity, smart, open-door policies, investment in human capital, and a disciplined society. It is a valuable lesson for countries eager to develop. You do not need natural resources. If you have people and the right vision, you can still create a miracle.